Welcome to the Grief Bully Podcast. I am your host, J Nicole. Thank you for joining our weekly discussion around grief, mental health, and your overall personal wellness. The Grief Bully Podcast will serve as a vehicle to help you navigate life's journey. Be sure to subscribe, review, and share the podcast with anyone in your life that you think it will help. Let's bully grief together. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Grief Bully Podcast. I am your host, J Nicole. Guys, we are back in the building, rocking and rolling for another solo round. And we're going to get into this conversation because I know for sure I cannot be the only person. Maybe I am, I don't know, right? I cannot be the only person that has found themselves in the middle of a day, beautiful day at that, right in the summer, sun is shining, clouds are blue, birds are chirping, and then you're in your car hysterically crying in the middle of the workday. Yes, this recently happened to me, caught me completely off guard, and I'm going to tell you right now, I blame it on the Apple iPhone. Yes, I am going to blame this on the Apple iPhone because I feel like they have some sort of back-end scheme plan that after a certain amount of time, although my phone shows that I have an amount of storage that's necessary to utilize my phone, it is starting to malfunction. And it keeps saying it's because I don't have enough storage. What does Apple iPhone and the Apple iPhone storage have to do with me hysterically crying? I'm glad you asked. So, I'm chilling, middle of the day. Phone is not working. Message is not going through. Everything looks like a text message. Nothing looks like an iMessage. And then I say, okay, let me start deleting some of my data. So I'm deleting stuff, and it looks like one of the bigger parts that's taking up my space is actually conversations. So here I am, scrolling away, delete. And then I get to a conversation that says, Daddy's cell. I knew better. But it has been years. I would honestly say it's been years since I've actually took any time to look at any of my late father's previous text message conversations with me. I have some voicemails saved. I sent them to email around the time that he passed because I didn't want to lose that. I wanted to at some point be able to hear his voice if I felt like I could do it. But again, middle of the workday, I started scrolling. I'm in these conversations about 15 minutes out from a web meeting, yes, on camera in front of a customer, but I had just been bawling. I lost it reading these messages. And if you've ever experienced this, like I said in the beginning, I know I can't be the only person that found themselves in this rabbit hole, but it is an experience that you wouldn't fully understand, I guess, unless you've been there. But it also is a testament to the power of grief and just how sneaky it is because it was not on my agenda for that day. I actually didn't even wake up feeling sad in terms of loss. Got a lot going on in my life, so I'm always feeling overwhelmed and things like that. Maybe a little more anxiety, a little more of a low spirit here and there. But as far as grief goes, like something that's happened to me already, no, my present stuff is things that I'm worrying about that haven't happened yet, just juggling everything in life. But as far as grief goes, no, was not a part of the plan. Here I am scrolling through these conversations. And I'm going to try to do my best to, I guess, explain it, to word it in a way that it can make sense to someone who may not have experienced this. But it was like a double-edged sword, right? So it felt so foreign. It felt weird. It was like I am on the outside looking into a previous life that I once had, a space that once occupied my heart, and I felt so fulfilled. Honestly, I started to kind of feel like my dad's presence was there. So not in terms of like a spirit or anything like that. I started to feel how I felt when we would have those conversations, those text message exchanges. And what it brought me to the realization was, though, is that I don't think I realized just how much I really miss him. So you might have someone in your life that you know they passed, obviously, and you know that it's sad, it's a tough time and all of that stuff. But for you to actually have this blaring conversation, this dialogue just right in front of your face to say, hey, you don't have this in your life anymore. You don't have this in your life anymore. It's not possible for you to text your dad and he will text you back. It's not possible for you to get this kind of reassurance in terms of the love that he had for you. Just saying things as simple as this. Hey, princess. Hey, princess. Like, I was my dad's princess. And I haven't even heard those words, let alone saw it in writing in years. So it's like someone dies and you feel that pain and you know that they're not here and you feel the absence sometimes, generally when there's a situation where that person might be present, let's say like a holiday or anything like that, or maybe I ride past his apartment complex or something can remind you here and there. But diving deep into a conversation, what I felt like was I was diving deep into a conversation that unfortunately will always be one-sided. So I'm reading it, and the one thing I will say too about it, and why I think I just kept like scrolling back and back, was because, for one, I saw the love that he had for me, and I think a lot of times when you have pain or when you lose someone, you could, let me see, how can I say this? You can distort what the relationship really was, right? So sometimes people have lost people that were actually bad in their life, and they might just feel super sad and put this different like good spin on them, when in reality they were horrible, they didn't get along, right? So it really showed me that through some of our difficult times throughout life and the ups and downs, like, this guy really loved me. Like, this was my guy for real. Like, it really was. Like, just, I noticed that anything that I've ever said to my dad about something that I like, so let's just say there was a phase where I was totally into SpongeBob, right? And in this conversation, when I'm reading back the other day, my dad's like, oh, the creator of SpongeBob passed away, a young guy, really sad. Like, anything that he knew that I had liked at one point or another, he would make a point to reach out to me. So like, even when Dawn Staley, when South Carolina won the championship this year, I was like, I know my dad would have been calling me, texting me, like he knew that was my girl. So anyway, in those conversations, I was able to really say, like, no, it's not a fragment of my imagination that this relationship exists, that this love was genuinely there. Like, no, it really was. Like, we certainly had conflict, of course. I mean, there was definitely ups and downs. All families do. But I want to say, although reading the messages was extremely painful, and I'm telling you, I had to throw some glasses on and fix my face up to get onto this call, I was going to just blame it on allergies anyway, because where I'm at in New Jersey, allergies is tearing me up. So, as you can hear right now. So anyway, although it was hard, one of the things I will say that I walked away with, and it was the most impactful part of it, was that my dad had, when he got his cancer diagnosis, it was already at stage 4. So stage 4 cancer means that it's in more than one location, which is called, it metastasized. So it was already in more than one location. He had a couple other things going on, but we did not know that he had cancer. So when my family and I found out that he had cancer, it was actually in January, I believe, of 2019. My dad passed away February 14th, 2019. So it was a very short window there. It was a quick progression of things escalating. And he wasn't a candidate for any of the treatments or anything like that. So the diagnosis was a diagnosis. It was a terminal. And I remember being in the hospital room with him, and I'll never forget this. I actually think I have this conversation recorded. Probably breaks all kinds of HIPAA laws, but whatever. I haven't shared it with anyone or myself. I actually haven't replayed it back, but I didn't want to miss anything. And the doctor was saying to my dad, hey, what do you want to do? And my dad's like, well, I want to fight. And the doctor's like, well, it's not about fighting. It's about how do you want to accept the loss? Cancer is already won. That was painful. That was painful because my dad wanted to fight. And in these text messages, I'm telling him, like, keep going, Dad, like, Joan strong, like, we got this, like, we've been through hard things together. And he's like, God's not ready for me yet, I think. And that was really hard. So that was part of where it was really hitting me emotionally. But what I'm saying to say about the positive in this conversation was that there was a lot of like, thank you for being there for me. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for all of these things, right? And so it's not to pat myself on the back, but it was to give me a little bit, just like a little bit of a sigh of relief, because I had tremendous guilt. And I still battle with it now of us making a decision to put my dad in hospice, right? Because that's end of life. A transition is to help them with that, be comfortable. So sometimes I'm like, man, like, what would have happened? Like, how many more days would we have had? Like, what would be differently if we didn't make that choice? And so I always wonder, like, did I do the best for my dad? And getting a little emotional here. Reading these messages, it made me close the conversation and say, I did the best for my dad. I did the best for him. I may not have been able to beat cancer. I may not have been able to cure him. I may not have been able to get him to get up out that hospital bed and walk back home with us. But all along that time, I did what I absolutely could to call him, to check on him, to make sure he had food, to, when he was in a hospital, take him to the hospital or pick him up from the hospital or whatever it was, call his doctors, make doctor's appointments, get his medication, do all of those things. And it's easy to lose sight on what you've done and the sacrifices that you made, because in the end, you just feel powerless. Powerless, hopeless. I really beat myself up, guys. That was 2019. It's 2024 right now at the time of recording. And so for me to just stumble upon that conversation, thank you, Apple iPhone. No, but seriously, it hurt. But me allowing myself to go through it, it also kind of took me off the hook a little bit within myself. Like that internal turmoil that we deal with and that we experience when it comes to the grief and the loss and just the trauma, right, in our lives, internally, it can eat us up. That trauma to an extent could become a cancer itself, if I'm being for real. It spreads like wildfire internally and then externally when it comes to that. And I think that those are one of those things that I couldn't have predicted for the other day, but I'm thankful for it because it opened my eyes literally. And it tore me apart, made me sad, of course, but it also was like, hey, it goes back to a conversation that I've had with you all recently where it was like, you need to step back and really see a situation for what it is and what it really has come to in your life. And not so much of what it feels like, I guess. Because what something can feel like and what it actually is like in reality, it could be totally different. We could be beating ourselves up over things that's just not accurate. So, which in this scenario, I was beating myself up over something that's just not accurate. It could have torn me apart. I mean, I'm 15 years, almost 16 years sober, and the grief that I experienced over the last couple of years definitely very well much could have knocked me right out of that box. Could have chose a different coping mechanism. And I'm not trying to share all of this to be on some high horse. I'm telling you, like, life gets real and it gets really hard. So I don't know if you have come into this situation where you have phone calls, text messages, emails, things like that. I'm not encouraging you to go look at them because I don't want to send you down a spiral like it did for me. But just know you're not by yourself. Those conversations are tough to revisit. And oddly enough, like shortly after that same day and yesterday, my daughter was just saying like pop. And the only thing that she knows so far about my dad is that, well, there is an urn in my house. So she understands that when I make that reference, sometimes I'll point to that. But she doesn't know. She doesn't even know that that's a vase. She has no idea what it is. But I do say, and we do say, that Pop is in heaven, stuff like that. So maybe, but it was kind of weird. So I don't know. I don't want to go down a tangent on that, but I just want to say that these things can get very difficult. The journey can get certainly emotional and it can definitely catch you off guard, but you're not by yourself. I don't know if I will be prepared to hear his voice. Like the text messages were enough. Voice, I don't know. I know there's people out there, though, that might play people's voices that they've lost on repeat We're all different. That's if there is a cool thing, or if there is a cool thing about grief, it would be its uniqueness. That no two persons' grief experience is going to be the same. So you can get creative with it, whatever feels good to you. I am an advocate for, as long as it's not keeping you stuck, as long as it's not breaking you down, as long as it's just not making a situation worse for you by any means, then I'm with it. I'm for it. I really, truly am. And so I thank you guys for letting me share that, because I'm like, listen, I was breaking down in the middle of the day. We're talking years now. What is that? 5 years? And it caught me off guard. So don't beat yourself up. It absolutely takes time. And in that process, be kind to yourself. Be an advocate for yourself. Most importantly, keep showing up for yourself, for your grief, and a life that you want to live. Thank you for letting me bear this one with you guys. Drop some comments. Let us know what's your thoughts. What are you thinking? Did you learn anything? Did anything help you feel more seen? And shout out to the comments and the things that you leave. I really appreciate it. Someone was saying, thank you for continuing to be a voice for us that are going through grief. Like, shout out to you. And I know there's people who show up that have been following the Grief Bully journey for years. I love you guys. I recognize it. I see the names. I may not know your real name, but I know your social media name. And I appreciate that. And, well, if you want to follow me and see what I'm doing on social media, then make sure you go do that over on Instagram at @I_am_J Nicole, guys. So next time, you already know. Love and light. Peace.